Hi everyone, and welcome to The Sleepy Scientist. I'm really happy you're here. Tonight, we're going to go on a calm and quiet trip to learn something amazing. So get comfy, take a deep breath, and let's enjoy this peaceful science story together. Before we start, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it for you right now? If you like relaxing science videos, don't forget to tap the like button. Now let's begin.
Long after the sun has gone, when the air feels cooler and the sky turns deep and dark, something gentle still lingers. A glow, a shimmer, a whisper of light that refuses to disappear completely. It drapes itself across the rooftops, pools softly on the grass, and wraps around sleeping flowers like a bedtime song. This is moonlight, but it is more than that. It is the memory of sunlight, stretched and softened by the journey it takes to meet the moon, then sent back to Earth with a hush. The moon does not make its own light, it borrows it gently. Sunlight touches the moon, and the moon in turn becomes a quiet lantern for the world below. But how does this light move? What carries it through the great dark between stars and planets? The answer, as small and strange as it sounds, is a tiny traveler called a photon. Photons are the tiniest pieces of light. They have no weight, no rest, no edges. They are messengers made of energy, dancing endlessly across space. They do not sleep, they do not tire, and yet under the comfort of night it almost feels as if they dream. Each photon leaves the surface of the sun after a very long journey inside it. In the heart of the sun, where heat and pressure squeeze atoms tightly, nuclear reactions create pure energy. That energy becomes a photon. But before it ever escapes the sun, the photon must bounce again and again and again through dense layers of gas. This part takes thousands, even millions of years. It is like a single grain of light wandering through a storm of clouds, nudged this way and that before finally breaking free. And when it escapes, it flies, not slowly, not lazily, but at the fastest speed allowed in the universe, the speed of light. It takes just over 8 minutes for a photon to leave the sun and reach Earth. That means the glow we see tonight was born 8 minutes ago in the sun's outer skin, but in truth, its birth as energy may have happened millions of years earlier. Now imagine that same photon when it reaches the moon, touches rock and dust and ancient craters. Most of the light is swallowed by this gray and silent surface, but some bounces back, and those are the photons that gently enter your eyes as you look up at the moon. They are travelers, long gone from their home, carrying sunlight across time to greet your gaze. Photons behave in strange ways. Sometimes they act like tiny particles, like flecks of dust from the stars. Other times they behave like waves rippling through space as if light were a pond being stirred by wind. This mystery, wave or particle, has puzzled scientists for centuries, but in the world of gentle science, we don't always need a sharp answer. It's enough to know they move like music. They dance with both pattern and presence. At night, when the world grows still, these photons don't vanish. They drift and scatter. Some get caught in clouds. Others fall into oceans and vanish into the deep. Some strike tree leaves and softly warm them. Some are captured by the eyes of night animals, owls, bats, and sleeping deer. Others may be reflected once more by windows, glancing off into new paths. And even as most people sleep, their skin still glows faintly in moonlight. You may not see it, but it's there, the faintest layer of silver touch resting across your face. It's as if the photons, ever so kind, are tucking the world in for the night. Some photons that bounce from the moon find themselves caught in orbiting satellites or drifting space dust. Some strike telescopes, where astronomers gently catch them and measure their stories. These tiny flashes hold information about the sun, the moon, and the path between. What happens when photons sleep? They don't sleep in the way we do, but perhaps when they are not seen, not felt, not noticed, they rest in silence, not stopped, not ended, just waiting, waiting for an eye to catch them, a surface to reflect them, a leaf to drink them in. The moonlight is not only light, it is memory, it is motion. It is ancient energy, still moving, still touching, still finding new places to go. It is never loud, never demanding, just persistent, gentle, present. If you close your eyes and imagine the moon, the glow is still there. A soft curve, a pale shine. That image in your mind, that glow, is built from photons that once traveled millions of miles to meet you. They touched the moon, then you, and now they live in memory. Tonight, as you lie still, those same photons drift over fields, over rivers, over rooftops, and through curtains. They fill your room with something old and kind, something that came from a star, bounced from a moon, and now rests gently by your side. Let it stay there just a little longer. Let it keep you company. Let it remind you the light never truly leaves. Let's drift deeper now into the secret life of those quiet beams, the ones that linger not just on the moon, but between branches, across lakes, behind your eyelids. These are not just gentle lights, these are clues, messages. The photon carries with it the signature of where it has been, its energy, its direction, its soft color. These are hints of the journey it took. And though it has no voice, each photon tells a story, if only we know how to listen. Imagine the Earth wrapped not just in air, but in a shifting web of light. Even at night, even when the sky is dark, there is a dance of photons that never stops. They come from the moon, yes, but also from far more distant places. Some come from stars that have already died. Some are older than our planet. They pass through space like ancient whispers, arriving here not with urgency, but with quiet certainty. The air around us glows faintly, even if our eyes cannot see it. This is called air glow, and it is the result of atoms in the atmosphere absorbing energy during the day and slowly letting it go through the night. The photons released by these atoms are soft, often invisible, but they are there, just as real as moonlight. It's like the sky is breathing, exhaling light as it rests. And down below, the Earth returns the gift. Light reflects from the ocean's surface and the snowy tops of mountains. It bounces from sand dunes and city glass. Even leaves of trees shine back a faint light to the sky. In this way, the Earth becomes a mirror, gently sending some photons back into space. A soft exchange, a cosmic conversation. Not all photons move in straight lines. When they enter the atmosphere, they scatter. Some glance off molecules of nitrogen and oxygen. This scattering, especially of the bluer, shorter wavelengths, is what makes the sky look blue during the day. But at night, this scattering becomes something more subtle, more poetic. The moon's light, too, is filtered by this dance, creating halos and shimmering rings around it when the air is just right. The same scattering that paints the day now decorates the night. Imagine standing beside a quiet lake, the moon above, and its reflection stretching toward you like a silver road. That path across the water is made of millions of photons, bouncing from the moon, touching the rippling surface, and then leaping again into your eyes. If the lake is calm, the path is smooth. If the wind stirs, the light dances and bends. The photons change direction, but not their purpose. They still come, still travel, still greet you. There are places on Earth where night never truly darkens, where the air shimmers with what is called noctilucent clouds. These clouds form high in the atmosphere, where ice crystals catch the last rays of sunlight long after the sun has dipped below the horizon. They glow faintly, almost like ghost clouds, lit not by direct light, but by light that has traveled a long, bending path through the upper sky. These are the quietest of illuminations, nearly forgotten, almost imagined, but real and made of photons all the same. Photons can also be born in the most surprising ways. In the deepest parts of your body, for example, small flashes of light happen as part of chemical reactions. Bioluminescent creatures, fireflies, deep-sea jellyfish, glowing fungi create light from within, sending out tiny photons into the night. These are lights not reflected but created, and each photon released by these living beings joins the larger river of nightlight, moving outward, finding something to touch. And so the night becomes a tapestry of all these light sources. The sun's reflection from the moon, the scattered gleam of the atmosphere, the deep-born glow of tiny creatures, and the distant, endless sparkle of stars. But what links them all together? The photon. A small, invisible traveler connecting moon to moth, cloud to cliff, sea to skin. It's easy to think of light as bright, fast, and loud, but photons at night teach us otherwise. They show us that light can be patient, that it can travel vast distances without force, that it can wait to be noticed. Sometimes a photon may reflect for hours between particles in a cloud before it finds a way out. Sometimes it will enter a piece of glass and slow down ever so slightly, waiting until it exits to resume its speed. These changes are not random. They are delicate dances, shaped by the materials the photon touches. If you look at a full moon through a telescope, what you see is not the moon as it is, but as it was. The light takes time to travel, just over a second in fact, but if you look at stars you are seeing images from years ago, decades ago, centuries. The photons that reach your eyes tonight may have left their star before humans ever built cities, before our moon had all its craters. The photon is a bridge across time. And so each night when you rest beneath the sky, you are not just surrounded by the present, you are touched by history, by age, by journeys that span millions of miles and millions of years, and yet it feels gentle, comforting, because the photon never asks anything in return, it simply arrives. Some scientists speak of the photon as a quantum object, one that doesn't fully behave like anything else in our world. It can exist in more than one place, be more than one thing. It doesn't follow the rules we're used to. But instead of confusion, this mystery brings a kind of peace, a softness. The idea that something so important, so ancient, can also be so strange and graceful is a comfort. There are experiments that show photons choosing paths as if they know what lies ahead. Others reveal that photons can become entangled, so that the fate of one is mysteriously linked to another, no matter how far apart they are. These are not ideas made for sleep, perhaps, but when said softly, slowly, they become lullabies of science, stories of light with no ending, whispers of the quantum world beneath the stillness of the sky. And as we listen, we find ourselves a part of that story. Every time we look at the moon, every time a reflection catches our eye, every time we close our lids and still feel a faint silver warmth. The photons are still arriving, still remembering, still touching us in the gentlest ways. Now let the night grow quieter still, and let us follow the last part of this soft journey, the gentle goodbye of the photon. It has traveled so far for so long, and yet its arrival is never dramatic. It enters a room without a sound. It lands on your skin without pressure. It rests on your pillow like a falling feather, unnoticed but present. When it finally reaches the end of its path, something tender happens. It is absorbed. To be absorbed is to become part of something else. A photon may touch a leaf, and in that moment the light becomes food. Through the quiet work of photosynthesis, the leaf captures the photon's energy and uses it to build life. That single flash of light, born in the heart of the sun, bounced from the moon, drifted through the sky, now becomes part of a green cell. It may grow into a branch, a blossom, a seed. In your body, too, photons matter. The light that touches your skin begins a cascade of tiny signals. The hormone melatonin, which helps you sleep, is shaped by light. In darkness, your body releases more of it, inviting dreams. In brightness, it retreats. So even as photons fade at night, their absence holds meaning. They help tell your body it is time to rest, to drift, to heal. Light does not just wake us, it helps us sleep. And in sleep, strange things happen. The brain, in its resting rhythm, can still respond to light. A flash behind the eyelids may ripple into a dream. A glint across the room might stir a memory, long buried but now blooming like a moonflower in the mind's garden. Some researchers believe that certain cells in the eye can sense even the faintest glow, even when the eyes are closed. These cells do not create images, but they still feel the light, still listen to photons like whispers in the dark. In caves deep underground where no light enters, people lose track of time. Their days stretch. Their inner clocks drift. Without photons to mark the morning, the night, the gentle changes of the sun, we forget how to count the hours. That's how deeply connected we are to light, to these silent particles that shape the rhythm of life itself. And what about the photons that go unseen, that drift and bounce and slip past our gaze? Are they wasted? No, never wasted. A photon may not be noticed, but it still moves, still touches, still warms, still changes the thing it lands upon. Some become heat, some become motion. Some join the air, making colors in sunsets and rainbows and thin silver fogs. There is something humble about light. It never forces, it never stays, it does not wait to be thanked. A photon gives all it has in a single touch, and then it is gone, either transformed, absorbed, or scattered again into new paths. It reminds us of kindness, of presence, of beauty that needs no witness. When you walk under the full moon, your shadow moves softly beside you. That shadow is made by photons, those that are blocked, those that cannot reach the ground where your body stands. Even absence becomes a shape. Even the parts of light we do not receive help create the world we see. There is a quiet poetry in how light behaves around edges, the way it bends, softens, curves. This is called diffraction, and it means that even shadows are not sharp. Even darkness has its softness. A photon doesn't stop at a wall. It bends around corners. It slips through tiny cracks. It continues always. And sometimes photons meet each other. When light passes through a fine slit, it creates patterns, bright and dark stripes where waves overlap. This is interference. It means that two photons arriving at the same place can either join hands in brightness or cancel each other out in silence. This is not violence. This is elegance, a ballet of brightness and quiet. Some of the oldest photons in the universe still travel around us. They come from the Big Bang. Nearly 14 billion years ago, these are the faintest microwaves, barely more than a sigh in the dark, and yet they still hold the shape of the universe's birth. They are called the cosmic background. They are the memory of a time before stars. And even now they slip through space through us, like ancient lullabies no one remembers how to sing. Sometimes a photon will enter a crystal or a drop of water and emerge split into many colors. This is dispersion. This is how rainbows form. Each color, from deep violet to rich red, bends at a slightly different angle. And though it looks like separation, it is in fact the revealing of what was always there. White light carries every color within it, just as a night sky carries every story. And so the photon continues its life, not in one straight path, but in echoes, in reflections, in the memories it leaves behind. When you see a photograph, it is frozen light, a captured moment. The photon that touched someone's face or a mountain or a distant cloud has been stored, its energy translated into color and shape. It lives again each time we look. Light never stops completely. Even in the coldest parts of the universe, where no stars shine, there are still a few photons, still moving, still holding energy. The universe, even in its darkest places, is never entirely dark. And so when you lie down to sleep and the room grows quiet and still, remember that photons are still drifting outside. They pass through windows, they slip through the gaps in curtains, they land on sleeping cats and quiet bookshelves in the tops of trees. Some have come from faraway stars, galaxies, ancient clouds. Others have only traveled from the street lamp, the moon, or the glow of your clock. But all of them bring the same soft truth. You are surrounded by light, even in the dark. And in the morning, when you open your eyes, the photons will be there again, waiting, with no sound, no hurry, just presence. What happens when photons sleep at night? They don't, but they let you sleep. They keep watch, glowing quietly in your dreams, holding the memory of stars, the hush of the moon, and the promise that morning will come again. Always. When morning arrives, it does not shout. It slips between tree branches like a secret being told leaf by leaf. Before birds call out or flowers unfold, light has already spoken to the trees, and they are listening, not with ears, not with sound, but with cells. The leaves are wide open, catching each photon like a word. They read the light, feel its warmth, and understand its language in ways we are only beginning to know. It begins with the sun rising above the curve of the earth, casting long, soft rays that tilt and stretch through the cool air. These rays are made of countless photons, scattering blue across the sky and sending red and gold into the morning. As they pass through the branches, some are swallowed by bark, some bounce from dew, and others land directly on the surface of leaves. Here, the real conversation begins. Leaves are not just green, they are careful. They are shaped to gather as much light as possible without letting too much heat in. On their surface are tiny openings called stomata, like mouths that breathe the world. But more importantly, hidden inside the soft green flesh are chloroplasts, the tiny powerhouses that listen to light. Inside each one, millions of molecules wait to catch a photon. They are like open hands waiting for the touch of day. When a photon finally lands inside a leaf, it is not destroyed. It is welcomed. The energy it carries is used to split water into hydrogen and oxygen. That hydrogen is kept and used to build sugars, and the oxygen is released back into the air. This is photosynthesis, one of the most ancient and beautiful miracles on Earth. With just light, water, and air, a tree can build itself from the inside out. Each branch, each leaf, each ring of bark is a history of light collected and stored. And yet the light does more than fuel. It informs. The angle of sunlight tells the leaf what time of day it is. The softness of light through clouds tells it whether to open wide or curl inward. When light grows dim and days short, the tree begins preparing for sleep. It reads the changes in sunlight like pages of a calendar, marking the shift from summer to autumn. This is not guessing, it is reading. The tree speaks the language of photons, and the message is clear. Between the leaves, light is not still. It flickers, dances, bends. This is dappled light, the kind that makes forests feel alive and moving. As the wind stirs the branches, patterns shift on the forest floor, and even these tiny changes matter. Small plants and seedlings growing below the canopy watch the flicker. They use it to decide when to grow, when to wait, and when to bloom. Some can only grow if they receive short flashes of light between shadows. They are timed to the gaps, not the full sun. This light between leaves is like a gentle Morse code, a rhythm of brightness and shade, warmth and coolness. The forest understands it, responds to it, and grows in its flow. And we, walking through it, feel it too. The calm of a forest path is not only about silence, it is about the way light moves across your skin. Soft, filtered, safe. But light also touches the invisible. Ultraviolet rays, unseen by human eyes, are still part of the conversation. Bees can see them, so can some birds. Flowers have patterns, guiding lines and rings that are only visible in ultraviolet. These are landing guides, invitations, signs pointing to nectar. The flower uses light as a signal, a way of saying, "Come here." And the bee answers, flying from glow to glow. In this way, plants do more than receive light. They shape it. They bend it, reflect it, absorb it. Some plants have tiny hairs or waxy surfaces that shimmer in sunlight, changing the way photons scatter. This may protect them from too much heat, or it may attract certain insects. Every texture, every shape is part of the plant's relationship with light. And still deeper, light becomes information. Scientists have discovered that plants can sense when a neighbor is too close, just by measuring how much red light is being absorbed and how much far red is being reflected. This lets them know if they are being shaded, if another leaf is overhead, if they need to grow taller or wider. Light to a plant is not just food, it is a message, a conversation, a guide. In greenhouses and deep farms underground, people now use artificial light to grow plants, but not all light is the same. Blue light encourages short, leafy growth. Red light encourages blooming. The wrong kind of light or too much of one kind can confuse the plant. It is like hearing only one note of a song. The full spectrum is needed to tell the whole story. And in every forest, in every patch of garden, light tells a different story each day. Morning light is golden, low, and calm. Midday light is strong and clear. Evening light softens again, drawing long shadows and warming the undersides of leaves. Plants respond to this cycle, following the sun, shifting their angle, even turning their leaves to better catch each note of light. This movement, called heliotropism, is a kind of silent choreography, a slow dance with the sky. So the next time you see sunlight spilling through trees, look more closely. Not with your eyes alone, but with wonder. Notice how the light changes as you move. Watch how it paints the grass, how it touches the petals of a flower, how it flickers and fades. Behind each flicker is a photon, and behind each photon is a journey. From the core of the sun, through space, through clouds, to the leaf, and finally to you. And maybe, if you're quiet enough, you'll feel the message too. It's saying, grow, reach, rest, begin again. The language of light is older than words, and the leaves have always understood. Let us wander now deeper into the green, where the sun's voice becomes a song between branches. Here in this soft-lit world, the language of light is not only spoken, it is echoed. Every plant, every blade of grass, every twisting vine holds within it a secret rhythm, a response to the sunlight that wraps around it. But it is not only the strong beams of noon or the golden stretch of dusk that matter. Even the quiet light, the scattered, the dim, the hidden, is heard. And it is in these shadows and glimmers that the forest truly listens. The forest is not just a place filled with trees, it is a living system of communication. Beneath the canopy, light threads its way between leaves, not with chaos but with purpose. As photons scatter downward, they begin to sort themselves. Blue light is caught early, high in the treetops, absorbed by eager chlorophyll. Red light travels a bit farther, deeper into the green sea. And the lower you go, the more rare the light becomes. Plants that live in this gentle gloom have learned to survive with less. They are tuned to what remains. Some leaves turn darker, almost purplish, to better capture what light is left. Others grow wider, thinner, like stretched hands trying to gather every last drop. These plants are quiet collectors, patient readers of a faded page. They do not race toward the sun. They thrive in the stories that light leaves behind. And in this underlit world, another kind of conversation begins. Certain plants do not speak only to the sun, they speak to each other. Through the dim light that filters down, they sense when their neighbors are nearby. A decrease in red light, a subtle shift in angle, a faint shade that moves through the day, all of these are signals. Some plants stretch upward in response, seeking more. Others bend, widen, change direction. This is photoreception, and it is more than reaction. It is awareness. Photoreceptors inside the leaf respond not just to the presence of light, but to its quality. Red light and far red. Light tell the plant if it is in the sun or shade. Blue light tells it about direction and intensity. Even ultraviolet, invisible to our eyes, is felt by plants as a signal to protect, to thicken, to build their walls against harm. These signals are not loud. They are whispered in molecules and slow movements, but they shape the way a plant lives. And the timing of light matters too. Plants measure day length with astonishing precision. They do this not with clocks, but with cycles of light. A flowering plant, for example, may bloom only when the nights are long enough. It measures darkness more than brightness. Inside the plant are internal rhythms, circadian clocks that track the passage of time through the changing colors of dawn and dusk. This is called photoperiodism, and it is how plants know when to grow, when to bloom, when to prepare for sleep. In the spring, as the days grow longer, many plants begin to flower. But it is not the warmth alone that tells them it is time, it is the light. The sun's returning hours are a message. The time has come. And the plants, reading that soft message, begin their slow bloom, not all at once, not in haste, but in a quiet unfolding, bud by bud, leaf by leaf. Even seeds underground, resting in darkness, can sense when it is time to wake. A small flash of light, a brief kiss from the sun through a crack in the soil can be enough. The seed receives the signal and begins to stir. Roots stretch downward, shoots rise up. The language of light has spoken again. And this language is not heard only in forests. It hums in deserts where harsh light carves deep shadows and plants grow thick skins to protect themselves. It flickers on the ocean floor where strange algae use faint blue light to survive in the dark. It whispers in the cracks of city sidewalks where weeds find just enough sunshine to live. Everywhere there is life, there is light. And everywhere there is light, there is a message. In recent years, scientists have learned to use this language too. They build LED lights that mimic sunlight in controlled ways, allowing plants to grow in places without a sun at all. In vertical farms and windowless rooms, they fine-tune the color and rhythm of light to guide each stage of growth. This is not cheating. It is learning to speak gently in the same dialect that nature has used for billions of years. Some experiments have shown that plants can even sense the presence of light nearby, not just by receiving photons directly, but through subtle signals in their cells. They seem to prepare even before the light fully arrives, adjusting their chemistry in anticipation. This is not magic, it is sensitivity, a depth of perception that does not need a brain to be profound. And the trees, those towering listeners, have mastered this art. A tree may have leaves spread across meters of height, each part of its body receiving different kinds of light, and yet it coordinates this orchestra with elegance. The top leaves gather full sun, while the lower ones work in dimmer tones. Some trees even shed parts of their crown to allow more light to reach the younger leaves below. This is generosity. This is understanding. Light also affects how trees move water. On sunny days, leaves open their stomata to gather carbon dioxide, but in doing so they lose water. If the light is too strong or the air too dry, the tree may close its leaves partly, slowing the loss. This balance between thirst and hunger, between heat and light, is managed every moment through the gentle signals of photons. As the day grows late and the sun begins to lower, the language of light softens again. The colors shift toward gold, then orange, then deep red. Trees feel this change. It is a farewell, a quiet slowing. The internal clocks of leaves begin winding down, telling cells to rest, to store energy, to prepare for the cooler night. In autumn, the shortening of days sends another signal. Chlorophyll begins to break down, and other pigments emerge, yellows, reds, purples. These colors were always there, hidden beneath the green, waiting for the light to change. The fall colors are not decay, they are the final part of the story, a thank you note to the sun. And in that fading light, the forest glows once more, not with youth, but with memory. Each leaf falls knowing it has spoken with the sun, that it has read the message, lived its purpose, and returned its story to the earth. Each photon, each flicker has played its part. And the forest, always listening, always answering, prepares for silence. For sleep, until the light returns. Night in the forest is not empty. Even without the sun, light remains. It shifts, it softens, it slips into other forms. Beneath the moon and stars, the leaves do not stop listening. They turn their attention inward. They remember. What the daylight told them lingers still, folded inside their cells, held in place until the light speaks again. This memory of light, is echo, is what guides the forest through darkness. The trees do not sleep in the way animals do, but they rest. Their leaves slow their breathing. The small mouths on their surface, the stomata, begin to close. The sugar-making engines within pause. Yet even now the work of light continues deep within. Energy gathered during the day is moved, stored, transformed. The language of photons is not only spoken in brightness, it echoes in the hush. Roots stir beneath the soil. Nutrients travel through thin veins drawn by signals still shaped by sunlight. Certain cells are more active at night, performing maintenance, clearing damage, building new parts from the ingredients gathered earlier. This quiet reshaping unseen is part of the story of light, because it is light that made those ingredients. It is light that gave the leaf its instructions. And now in the darkness, the plant continues its response. Even the smallest light can matter. A sliver of moonlight on a leaf, a flicker from a passing star can trigger responses. The plant may not grow from it, but it senses, it notices. Some tropical flowers bloom only under moonlight, sensing the silver glow as a signal. Some trees drop their seeds at night, using the cool hours to let them fall in still air. These are not accidents. They are responses, soft answers to the quiet messages written in light. In the deepest forests, where sunlight barely reaches, plants have made extraordinary choices. Some have turned to other forms of nourishment, sharing sugars through root networks with neighbors who have better access to the sun. Others have grown pale, translucent, living off the decaying matter around them. Still others have formed bonds with fungi, trading minerals for food, all supported by what light once brought to the surface. Even when light is scarce, its influence continues. It is always part of the system, always a thread in the web. And light has a way of remembering its path. On the surface of a leaf, the patterns of veins are not random. They are shaped by how light flows through the growing tissue. Just as rivers carve valleys in the land, photons guide the structure of the leaf, whispering directions during the earliest days of its life. These patterns remain long after the light has changed, a frozen map of its influence. The shape of a tree, the twist of a vine, the opening of a flower, all are letters in the alphabet of light. As humans, we do not always see this language, but we feel it, in the warmth of a sunny window, in the way our bodies respond to the seasons, in our moods shaped by long dark winters or bright summer mornings. We too are readers of light, even if we forget the words. Photons enter our eyes, striking cells that send signals to the brain. We build our world from those signals: color, shadow, distance, motion. But beyond sight, light tells our brains what time it is. It sets our rhythms, tells us when to sleep, when to wake, when to feel alert. And just like the leaves, our bodies remember the light. Even in the dark, those memories remain. There are stories told in old traditions about plants that sing to the sun. Though not in sound, this idea carries a truth. A leaf turning toward morning is a kind of song. A vine stretching through shade is a kind of reaching. A flower blooming at dawn is a kind of greeting. The melody is made of movement, of response, of trust in the return of light. And that trust is not misplaced. The sun always returns. Its photons, ancient and new, arrive each morning without fail, and the forest, waiting silently, begins to listen again. Before sunrise, there is a blue light, a faint softening of the dark. The trees sense this change. The light is not strong, but it carries a message. The day is near. Hormones begin to shift. Cells awaken. Leaves prepare to open wide again. Even before we notice it, the forest has already begun to move. And when the sun finally lifts above the horizon, the conversation resumes in full. Photons spill into the leaves. The green begins its quiet work once more. And all through the forest, light flows like language, quiet, constant, kind. What we see as beauty, the shimmer through branches, the sparkle on water, the flicker between leaves, is more than visual. It is structure. It is connection. It is the record of light's journey. And though a photon may last only a moment, its influence stretches through days, years, even centuries. Trees carry rings that mark each year of light. Seeds carry patterns shaped by the sun their parent once knew. The language of light is a legacy written into every living thing. So the next time you walk beneath trees, look at the light between the leaves. Let it fall on your hand. Let it rest on your cheek. In that simple glow is a message that has traveled across space, danced through a forest, and come to meet you. It says grow, rest, trust, return. It says you are part of this. It says the light remembers. Ushad. Owls are not just the absence of light. They are shapes made by memory. When the sun shines and something stands in its path, a tree, a mountain, a person, light bends and wraps and pauses. Some photons continue forward. Others are blocked. What remains is not silence but a soft imprint, a shadow, a quiet echo of where the light could not go. Every shadow begins as light. From the center of the sun, photons burst forth, born in the furnace of fusion. They take thousands of years to reach the surface, then only minutes to fly through the solar system. They travel straight unless something stops them. And when they're stopped, they leave behind this gentlest of marks, a place where the warmth is just a little less, a space where brightness bows its head. Think of a child standing in the late afternoon sun. Their shadow stretches long behind them. The lower the sun sinks, the longer the shadow grows. This is not only geometry, it is time. The angle of the sun changes as the earth turns and the shadows move with it. You can watch the hours by watching the way shadows crawl across the ground. In ancient times, people built sundials for this very reason. No ticking hands, no humming machines, just the steady arc of shadow as a quiet clock. But shadows do more than mark the time. They cool the ground, shelter seeds, protect tender shoots from harsh light. In forests, large leaves cast dappled shadows below, letting just the right amount of light through for smaller plants to survive. The pattern is never fixed. As the wind moves the branches, the light shifts, the shadows dance, and beneath them, life adjusts. Some plants bloom only in the soft glow between light and dark. Some insects wait for shadows before they emerge. The world beneath a canopy is tuned to the language of shade. Even your own body knows shadow. Your skin responds differently in light and darkness. Your eyes adjust, your pupils widen, your thoughts slow. A room filled with sunlight feels awake. The same room cloaked in shadow becomes still. This is not only emotional, it is biological. Your brain receives fewer light signals. Hormones change. Your body prepares to rest. But shadows are not empty. They are filled with reflected light scattered from all around. Even in deep shade, photons find their way, bouncing off walls, the sky, leaves, water. That is why no shadow is truly black. Look closely at a shadow under a tree, and you'll see hints of green, blue, silver. The light that makes it there has taken the long road, arriving by reflection, gentle and roundabout. And within shadows live some of the most remarkable phenomena. One of them is called the umbra, the darkest part of a shadow where all light is blocked. Surrounding it is the penumbra, where some light still reaches, but not all. These words come from Latin, umbra meaning shade, penumbra meaning almost shade. They describe not just darkness, but degrees of light's absence, a subtle language of partial presence. During an eclipse, these shadow forms take center stage. When the moon passes between the Earth and the Sun, it casts a shadow onto our planet. In the heart of that shadow, the umbra, day turns to night. Stars appear, animals go quiet, and humans, watching from below, feel something ancient stir inside. A shadow has covered the sun just for a moment, and we remember that we live in motion, in orbit, beneath a sky filled with constant change. Shadows also stretch across the universe. On moons, on planets, on asteroids and rings, shadows form wherever light is stopped. And because light moves in straight lines, these shadows are sharp, stark, especially where there is no atmosphere to scatter the beams. On the moon, your shadow would fall in blackness, as if it had been carved from space itself. Yet even there, light finds a way. Earthlight reflects off the moon's surface. Sunlight scatters from distant stars. And slowly, gently, shadows soften at the edges. No place is untouched by light forever. Artists understand shadows deeply. They know how to paint light not only by adding brightness, but by shaping darkness. A single soft line of shadow can show roundness, weight, depth. This is because we recognize the world not just by what we see, but by how light falls upon it. And every curve, every angle, every fold of fabric or face or hill is made visible by the way shadows cling to it. In the early morning, shadows are long and gold-edged. They stretch toward the west, marking the newness of day. At noon, they huddle close, small and strong. And in the evening they grow again, this time in reverse, reaching back toward where the sun once stood. Each part of the day writes its own shadow poetry. Each hour leaves behind a different kind of memory on the ground. Even within our memories, shadows play a role. A sunlit afternoon recalled in old age often carries the shape of a shadow, a figure cast on the wall, a tree's branches stretching across the grass, a room lit afar. One side, we remember where the light was by noticing where it was. Shadows become anchors for recollection. And so, in many quiet ways, shadows remember the sun. They carry its shape, its motion, its warmth. They tell us where it has been. They tell us where it is going. They teach us that light, though bold and clear, always leaves room for softness, for stillness, for pause. And as we walk through our days, we are always moving through a balance of the two, light and shadow, presence and absence, movement and rest. The sun writes with photons, and the shadows read between the lines. Let's move deeper now into the slow memory of the Earth, where shadows are not just momentary shapes but lasting records of time. Long after the sun has moved on, the places it could not reach still tell a story. The imprint of a shadow can linger in temperature, in moisture, even in the rhythm of how things grow. The land listens to light and shade, and in that listening, a map is drawn not in ink, but in the slow responses of life. In the high deserts where rain is rare and the sun fierce, shadows are shelters. A single rock can cast enough shade to change the air beneath it. Seeds hidden in that shadow may survive when others perish. Moss may grow there, clinging to the cool side, safe from the harsh rays. Tiny insects hide beneath the line between light and dark. These shadows, though they shift each hour, offer just enough softness to let life take root. And as the seasons move, the shadows stretch in different ways. sweeping across sand and stone, drawing new boundaries of safety. On mountain faces, entire ecosystems are shaped by shadows. The northern side, receiving less direct sun, grows cooler, damper. Different plants take hold there. Different animals roam. In a single valley there may be two worlds, one sunlit, one shaded, each shaped by the angle of the earth to the sky. The sun may warm the land, but shadows define its personality. They create contrast, texture, pause. And in forests the story becomes even more delicate. A tree does not just cast a shadow, it receives them. A young sapling growing beneath a towering oak waits in the semi-dark. Its leaves are tuned to the hints of light that flicker down. It watches the dance of dappled shade. And when a gap opens in the canopy, perhaps a fallen branch, perhaps an older tree leaning back, the light shifts. The shadow breaks. The sapling begins to grow upward, having read the sign. It has waited not in sleep, but in readiness. Shadows taught it patience. Shadows whispered when to act. Even the animals of the forest live by these shifting cues. Owls perch in shadows, nearly invisible, their feathers blending into soft darkness. Deer graze along the edges, stepping carefully where the shade stretches longest. Predators learn to move with the light behind them, keeping their approach hidden. Prey learn to look into the shadows, sensing danger not from sound, but from the subtle shape of a broken line. Humans, too, have followed shadows. Long before clocks and compasses, people watched how shadows moved. They built sacred spaces aligned to solstice sunrises, where the first beam of morning light would fall through a narrow opening and cast a blade of gold across the stone floor. In these places, time was marked not in numbers, but in angles. The light told a story once a year. The shadow confirmed it. Even indoors, shadows guide us. The way a window lets in light tells us where we are, what time it is, whether the day is waking or winding down. A room lit only from one side carries a mood. The long shadow of a chair across the wall, the soft blur of a plant swaying against sunlight, these are not decorations. They are quiet companions. They remind us of the sun's place in the sky, even when we do not look out. And sometimes shadows move us in ways we cannot explain. A hallway flooded with golden light and long-reaching shadows can make us feel nostalgic. A city street in the early morning, where tall buildings split the sun into sharp lines and soft edges, can feel like a cathedral. There is emotion in shadow, not because it is dark, but because it holds contrast. It makes us notice. It asks us to slow down. In the natural world, creatures have evolved to read these signs. Some butterflies wait in the shadows of leaves before emerging into light. Some fish swim just beneath the surface where the light softens, using the gentle pattern above to stay hidden. Even coral reefs bloom in shapes designed to catch light while creating shade, both inviting and sheltering the life around them. The interplay of light and shadow is not background, it is blueprint. And shadows are not only cast by sunlight. Moonlight, though dimmer, creates its own outlines. In winter, a full moon over snow can throw long, silver shadows across fields. These shapes move more slowly, more quietly, but they are still there. Nocturnal animals follow them. Trees seem to whisper tea. Rough them, and those who wake in the night and step outside can see a different kind of world, a world made not of brightness, but of suggestion, of silhouette, of gentle contrast. Even artificial lights create shadows with their own personality. A street lamp standing tall casts golden cones onto pavement, breaking the night into soft islands of light and the spaces between. A candle on a table dances with flickering shadows that stretch and shrink with every movement of the flame. These are modern shadows, shaped by human hands, but they still speak the old language. They still remind us that light is not whole without its partner. Some of the most curious aspects of shadow happen when they bend. Light passing through curved objects like lenses or drops of water can create shadowy patterns that ripple and twist. These are called caustics. You might see them at the bottom of a swimming pool where light bends and creates shimmering shapes. These patterns are made of both brightness and shadow, moving together in a kind of underwater choreography. They are moments when shadow becomes alive. In science, shadows help us understand the nature of light itself. In early experiments, scientists placed objects in front of light and watched the shadows cast behind them. Through these studies, they discovered how light bends, how it spreads, how it interferes with itself. Shadows became tools for discovering truth. They revealed that light behaves both as a wave and a particle, that it moves not just forward but around. That absence can be as telling as presence. There is a beauty in that idea, that we can learn not just by seeing the light but by noticing where it doesn't go. That the quiet edges, the dark outlines, the places where things pause, these too are full of information, full of story. And in our own lives, shadows hold memory. A photograph taken long ago may show not only faces but the shape of shadows on a wall. A childhood memory may be framed not only by what was seen, but by where the light fell. A goodbye in the late afternoon may be remembered always with the angle of the sun and the long shape stretching across a sidewalk. In these ways, shadows become companions to memory. They do not hold light, but they help us carry it. They are the soft echo behind every bright moment. So when you next walk through sunlight, notice where your shadow falls. Notice how it moves with you, stretches ahead, lags behind. It is not just your shape, it is your trace, a record made by light itself. And when the light fades and shadows soften into the folds of dusk, remember, the day's story is still there, whispered on the ground in the curves of light's absence. It is saying, I was here, I passed this way. And in that quiet shape, the sun is still speaking. Now let us follow the shadows to their final resting place, not in darkness but in memory. As the day fades and the sun dips low, shadows stretch farther than they have all day, becoming long and soft like evening sighs. They no longer cling tightly to the edges of things, but begin to blur, to drift, to dissolve into twilight. It is in these moments that shadows stop being markers of shape and become something more tender, a reflection of time passing, of light saying goodbye. In twilight, shadows become storytellers. They gather in corners and stretch across fields, carrying with them all the angles and moments of the day. Where the child played beneath the tree, where the bird rested on a fence, where the bicycle leaned against a sunlit wall, all of these leave behind a trace, not in sound or scent, but in the soft outlines made by falling light. And even after the sun disappears, the memory of those shapes lingers in the mind. Twilight is not just the dimming of the sun, it is the merging of light and dark, the time when shadows speak loudest. They are not pushed away by brightness nor hidden in total dark. They move freely across the world, whispering of what was and gently preparing for what will come. They gather under bridges, stretch across rooftops, lean into the folds of hills. It is here that they feel most alive, not as absences, but as participants in the story of the day. And once true night arrives, shadows seem to vanish, but they do not disappear entirely. They become something else. In the darkness, everything is shadow, and yet some areas are softer, some sharper. Moonlight reveals outlines, starlight sketches shapes. The world becomes a quiet sketch in grays and silvers, drawn not by bold light but by its quietest form. These are the deepest shadows, the ones that remember the moon, that move with the stars, that wait for morning. Even in dreams, shadows play their part. Close your eyes and imagine the warmth of sunlight on your face. Your mind draws it not only by imagining brightness, but also by imagining contrast. You picture the shape of light falling through a window, forming bars on the floor. You see the flicker of leaves outside, casting dancing patterns on the walls. Memory is shaped as much by shadow as by light. And in art, this truth is honored. A painter may spend hours perfecting the light in a scene, but it is the shadows that give it life. A face glows not just because of where the light lands, but because of where it does not. A landscape becomes real because the hills cast shadows across the valley. The balance between presence and absence gives the world its depth. Without shadow, light is flat. Without shadow, there is no place for rest. In music, there is a similar truth. A note held in silence after a melody is like a shadow. It is the space that gives the sound meaning. In storytelling, the pause between words creates rhythm. In life, it is often the quiet moments, the shaded ones, that let the bright ones shine more clearly. This is the wisdom of the shadow. It asks nothing. It takes nothing. but in its stillness it gives shape to everything. Shadows also teach us about change. They move faster than anything else we can see. In just minutes, the angle of a shadow shifts. It bends, it curves, it stretches. And in doing so, it reminds us that nothing stands still, not the sun, not the earth, not ourselves. We are always in motion, always changing our place to the light. Sometimes we stand in brightness. Sometimes we are in shade. Both are natural, both are needed. There are moments in life when we feel caught in shadow, when light seems far away, when warmth is absent. But shadows are not punishments, they are part of the cycle. They are the reminder that light moves and will return. They offer rest, quiet time to reflect. Just as a tree does not grow only in sunlight, but also in the cooling hush beneath its own branches, so too do we grow in the times when brightness softens. And even grief in its way is shaped by shadow. The presence of sorrow is made from the shape left behind by something loved, something lost. But like the long shadow of a mountain, it points towards something real, something solid, a memory, a moment of light once known. Shadows do not erase, they remember, and in that remembering they give comfort. Even technology has its shadows. Solar panels gather light, but they must also account for shade. Cities grow tall, casting long lines across the ground that change the way heat gathers, the way plants grow, the way people move. Architects study shadows to design buildings that breathe with the sun. Farmers watch shadows to know where to plant, how to harvest. Even in the most modern places, the oldest truth remains: shadows guide us. And in our hearts we carry shadows too. They are not darkness, they are not fear. They are the gentle places where we have paused, where we have stepped out of the glare and taken a breath. The places where we have rested, reflected, listened. So when the morning comes again and the sun rises over the curve of the earth, the first shadows will stretch toward the west. They will walk beside us, silent and soft as we begin the day. And as the hours pass, they will change shape, always moving, always reminding us of the light's presence. And when the day ends, they will lengthen again, not as a farewell, but as a memory being written. They will settle into the folds of the earth, into the corners of our homes, into the lines of our faces. And in that soft, fading shape, the sun's voice will still be speaking. It will say, "I was here, I passed this way." And the shadow, gentle and faithful, will whisper back, "I remember." Far beyond the clouds, past the hush of Earth's blue ceiling, light travels through the silence of space. It moves not in storms or crowds, but in a quiet drift, beam by beam, thread by thread, carrying with it stories of stars long gone. These are the starbeams, and they do not hurry. They drift through the deep, unmeasured spaces, carrying light that has wandered for thousands, sometimes millions of years. And tonight, some of that ancient light will touch your skin. A starbeam begins in fire. At the heart of a star, hydrogen atoms fuse to form helium, releasing pure energy. This energy becomes light, cast out in all directions. Each beam begins as a photon, born in a place of pressure and heat so great we cannot truly imagine it. Yet from this explosion, something gentle is made. It leaves the heart of its star and begins to travel, not with chaos, but with grace. The journey is long. First, the photon must escape the star itself. It bounces, it shifts, it slows, caught within layers of gas and plasma. It may take 1,000,000 years just to reach the surface. But when it finally breaks free, it begins to drift through open space, carried at the speed of light, touching nothing unless something is in its path. This is the beginning of its silence. Some starbeams never find a home. They float endlessly across galaxies and voids, slipping past planets and moons. Others strike dust and ice and vanish in warmth, but a rock. Few, by perfect chance, find Earth. They pass through our atmosphere, weave between molecules of air and water, and shine down upon forests and oceans and skin. If you've ever looked up at the night sky and seen a star twinkle, you've met them. You've received a message that began long before you were born. And these beams are old. Some of the stars we see tonight have already ended their lives. Their light continues, though their bodies are gone. We see what they once were, not what they are now. The starbeam is a kind of memory stretched across space and time. It is a ghost made of light, a farewell sent long ago that only now reaches your eye. When you lie beneath the stars, you are not just watching the sky, you are being touched by the past. Each starbeam that lands on your skin carries the age of its source. Some may have been traveling since the time of the first forests. Others may have begun when the first humans lit fires in caves. Their drift is so slow and steady that time seems to fold around them. And yet their arrival is always soft, always patient. Starbeams do not burn us, they do not push or pull. They arrive with the weight of nothing, with no sound, no demand. They simply touch, and in that touch something changes. A feeling, a thought, a memory. Perhaps you've had moments late at night beneath a quiet sky when you felt watched not by eyes but by stars. That feeling is the starbeam, arriving without explanation, settling gently into the soul. And though they are silent, starbeams carry colors. Some light is red and slow, others blue and quick. These differences tell us about the star's temperature, its age, its movement. By reading these colors, scientists can know how far away a star is, whether it's coming closer or moving away. The light becomes a map, a story written in wavelengths. It is the only way we can see across such distances. Starbeams are our only bridge. Even the spaces between stars are not empty. There in the darkness, starbeams drift past clouds of dust, streak through magnetic fields, and sometimes bend around invisible forces. Gravity can pull on them, curving their path. This bending is called gravitational lensing, and it allows us to see things hidden behind other objects. Light does not always travel in straight lines, it listens to the shape of space itself. And so a beam of starlight that you see tonight might have traveled in a curve, slipped past a planet, skimmed a black hole, been scattered by dust, and still arrived whole. Still clear, still carrying its message. In this way, starbeams are like thoughts. They begin deep inside something burning, they drift, they are shaped by the world around them, and then they arrive, perhaps late, perhaps changed, but still carrying their purpose. When starlight reflects off snow or glows on the surface of a lake, it becomes more than distant memory. It becomes part of this world. It paints the edges of pine needles. It glimmers on the wings of sleeping birds. It rests on mountaintops and seeps into caves. It turns ordinary places into something holy, all without sound, all without touch. If you've ever walked at night when the stars were bright and felt peaceful without knowing why, that was the starbeams, drifting down and reminding your body of something it once knew, that you are part of the universe. That light from elsewhere still wants to find you, that even in the dark something is reaching out. Children sometimes wish on stars, not knowing that the light they see may be older than every story ever told. Yet something about that ritual, the whisper, the gaze upward, the silent hope feels right, because starbeams carry wonder. They ask nothing but attention. They arrive for everyone, no matter where you stand, no matter what you believe. They make no sound, but they answer every question with a kind of stillness. And though we can measure their speed, their energy, their spectrum, there is something about starlight that resists full explanation. It is light, yes, but it is also feeling. It is science and also poetry. So when you next look up, remember, what you are seeing is not only present but past. Not only science but memory. Each flicker is a journey. Each shimmer is a breath from another world. Let it fall on you. Let it drift. Let it stay. Let us drift now into the spaces between stars, where light travels endlessly, not in waves of noise, but in waves of patience. The gentle drift of starbeams is not a rush, but a hush, a quiet unfolding of time through the fabric of space. Out there are no sounds to carry them, no winds to push them forward. They move in stillness through the vacuum, untouched by air, unbothered by friction. They carry nothing but themselves, each photon a piece of ancient fire, each one still glowing. Between galaxies, light becomes the only witness, the only traveler. A beam of starlight might pass entire lifeless worlds without once being seen. It may move for centuries without touching anything at all, but still it moves. It does not tire. It does not wonder if it has a destination. It simply goes. This is the grace of light, to give its energy even when no one is looking, to arrive even when no one is waiting. When light from distant stars reaches Earth, it does not arrive alone. It is accompanied by silence, by distance, by time itself. Some of the beams we see were sent from stars that burned out millions of years ago. Their source is gone, their matter scattered, their fire long cold, and yet their light remains, still coming, still reaching, still arriving in your eyes quietly without apology. There is something deeply moving about that, to realize that the sky above us is filled with messages from a past we cannot change. It's not fiction, it's not metaphor, it's physics. The light from a star 500 light-years away took 500 years to reach us. That means we're seeing it as it was 5 centuries ago. We are always looking into history, and that makes every night sky a kind of time machine, every starbeam a letter from a time before. Some starbeams have traveled even farther, across galaxies, across epochs. Beams from the Andromeda Galaxy, for example, take over 2 million years to arrive. When they touch the Earth, they bring with them a quiet story written in their color, their flicker, their strength. And yet most of these stories will never be fully read. They are felt instead, absorbed not just by telescopes, but by the skin, by the eyes, by the soul. You might wonder how something so small, a single photon, can carry so much meaning. But light is generous in its language. Its presence tells us of temperature, motion, distance, composition. By splitting a single beam of starlight into its rainbow of parts, astronomers can know whether a star is spinning, what elements burn inside it, how old it is. These answers come not with shouting, but with light. Starbeams carry science in every wave, and yet they never lose their softness. And in that softness is also rhythm. Stars flicker not always because of the atmosphere, but because of their own nature. Some stars pulse, growing brighter and dimmer in steady beats. These are called variable stars, and their rhythm can tell us how big they are, how far away they sit. It's as if the stars themselves have a heartbeat, and the light they send us is their pulse. Other beams travel in chorus. Galaxies filled with billions of stars send out floods of photons, overlapping, weaving, shining. When you look at a patch of sky that seems dark, a telescope may reveal thousands of galaxies, each with countless stars, each sending its light through the void. That empty space you see is not empty at all. It's filled with starbeams, just too faint for your eyes to catch, but they are there, waiting. And starbeams can surprise us too. Sometimes the universe erupts in flashes, gamma-ray bursts, supernovae, solar flares. In these moments, light comes not as a drift, but a flood. A sudden, brilliant wave that travels for eons and then in an instant washes over the Earth. Even then, even in their intensity, these beams arrive without push. They arrive with purpose, but no sound. Even the brightest starburst comes in silence. And sometimes the beams don't come at all. Black holes, with their immense gravity, can trap even light. The space around them becomes a boundary beyond which no beam can pass. And yet, even this absence teaches us something. By watching the way light bends near these invisible giants, scientists can map what cannot be seen. In this way, even the missing beams are a kind of message. But most starbeams are not so dramatic. Most are slow, steady, soft, like snowfall, like breath. They fall on mountaintops and oceans and windowsills. They land on the faces of sleepers. They thread through the branches of trees. They pool on lakes in tiny ripples of silver. They do not change the world with force. They change it with presence. Even now, wherever you are, beams of starlight are passing through your walls, your skin, your bones. Not in a way that hurts, but in a way that joins. Some particles pass right through, unbothered by matter. Others pause, touch, leave a trace of warmth. Some are caught by your eyes, transformed into an image, that twinkle, that spark, that shimmer. And in those quiet touches, you are part of something immense. The light that lands on your hand may have begun its journey before your country existed, before your ancestors walked the earth. It did not choose you, but it found you. And in that, there is a kind of wonder that can't be spoken, only felt. We live in a sea of light, most of which we cannot see. Ultraviolet light dances on the edges. Infrared hums just below. X-rays, microwaves, gamma rays, all forms of light, all part of this drift. The visible part, the tiny sliver we can sense, is like a single note in an infinite symphony. And yet, And that single note is enough to fill a sky with stars. Light teaches us that not all journeys are quick, that not all arrivals are noticed, that something can move across eternity and still be gentle when it arrives. So tonight, when the stars begin to show themselves one by one and the sky darkens into velvet, step outside. Let the light touch you. Let the beams settle on your skin. You will not feel them land, but they will be there as they always have been, drifting, waiting, whispering. They do not rush. They do not fade. They simply keep coming. Because the stars are still speaking. And now we arrive at the edge of the drift, the final hush in the journey of a starbeam. After traveling across endless dark, bending through gravity's soft hands, slipping past clouds of dust and the pull of distant worlds, a photon finds its resting place. It might be the surface of a rock, the curve of a blade of grass, the lens of a telescope, or the back of your eye. Wherever it ends gently. It gives all its energy in one quiet touch, and then it is gone. But the starbeam does not vanish without a trace. That final moment, that gentle arrival, begins something new. When it lands on your skin, it warms you. When it enters your eye, it becomes part of sight. It transforms into signal, into sensation, into memory. You may not notice it, may not even be outside when it happens, but it happens all the same. All around you, all the time, ancient light completes its journey in silence. Sometimes the photon becomes heat, sinking into the ground, warming the soil that will feed roots, that will grow trees, that will make shade for someone you'll never meet. Sometimes it bounces, reflected back into the sky, scattered again through the atmosphere until it meets a cloud or disappears into the blue. Sometimes it finds a solar panel and becomes electricity, power for a home, a phone, a heartbeat inside a machine. And sometimes it is caught in glass, frozen forever inside a photograph. A moment of light held still. And in that photograph, time is paused. The starlight that passed through a lens hit the sensor and marked its arrival becomes an image, a face, a field, a night sky filled with stars. What we call pictures are not just memories, they are collisions of starbeams and human invention. Beams that began their lives in distant furnaces, traveled lifetimes, and ended in a moment captured forever. Every snapshot holds inside it the journey of light. And every gaze at the sky is a reunion with something impossibly old. There are people who spend their lives reading this light. Astronomers, with their telescopes and data, gather starbeams and decode them. They know that the light from each star is like a signature, unique in its color and pattern. They use this to understand where stars were born, how they burn, and when they will die. But even they admit that the science never fully replaces the feeling. That even when you know everything about starlight, its speed, its structure, its source, there is still a kind of awe that language cannot hold. That awe is the gift the starbeam brings, not because it is loud or rare or dangerous, but because it is steady, because it reminds us that something can be old and gentle, that something can be far away and still reach us, that something can begin in fire and end in peace. And there are places where starbeams gather, where they fall thickly, almost tangibly. Deserts at night, high mountain plateaus, remote islands untouched by city glow. In those places, the stars don't just shine, they pour. You can stand beneath them and feel small, but not in a frightening way, in a humbling way. As if the sky itself has reached down to remind you that you are part of something larger, that the light has chosen to find you not once but again and again. Even the ocean reflects the stars. On calm nights, the sea becomes a mirror, a second sky floating upside down. Boats drift between constellations above and below, and in the water, tiny creatures, bioluminescent plankton, respond to the motion of waves, creating their own light. The starbeams above are echoed by the starbursts below. The earth answers the sky with its own gentle fire. There are cultures that once navigated by stars, watching the position of constellations to cross vast distances. Their maps were written not on paper, but in memory. They knew the seasons by the rise of certain stars, knew when to plant, when to sail, when to sing. For them, the starbeam was not abstract. It was guide, timekeeper, companion. And perhaps in some small way we are still guided. The stars remind us to look up, to step outside, to pause. In a world that moves so fast, the starbeam moves as it always has, unrushed, undemanding. It teaches us that not everything needs to arrive quickly. That meaning can travel slowly. That beauty does not have to shout. Even now, the stars continue to send their beams, even the ones we cannot see, hidden by clouds or buildings or the brightness of day, are still sending. They do not stop for storms. They do not change their course for sorrow or joy. They simply go on, and in that going they give comfort, because something constant in the universe is still reaching for you, still touching you, still arriving. And in the quietest part of night, when sleep has softened your thoughts and your breath rises and falls like the ocean's tide, the starbeams continue to fall. You may not see them, you may not dream of them, but they are there, settling across rooftops, whispering over fields, slipping through curtains to rest on the floor beside your bed. They carry with them no judgment, no urgency, only presence. They say, "I have come a long way." They say, "I bring light from a place you'll never see." They say, "You are part of this too." And when morning comes and the stars fade from view, they do not disappear. They continue on beneath the blue, unseen but still here. A still shining. A still drifting. A still home. Color is often thought of as something loud, something that bursts into view, splashed across skies and flowers and sunsets. But before it dazzles, color is quiet. Before it blooms, it waits. Even in darkness, where nothing seems to glow, color lingers, hidden, patient, held inside things like a breath that hasn't yet been released. And when the light returns, color doesn't appear out of nowhere, it answers. It wakes. It speaks, not in sudden joy, but in long-held memory. Inside every object, stone, leaf, feather, shell, there is a readiness to reflect. That readiness is shaped by structure, by chemistry, by the arrangement of atoms. These small arrangements decide what kind of light will be kept and what kind will be sent away. What is sent back is what we see as color. A red apple reflects red light. A blue sky sends blue scattering toward us. But in the dark, none of that changes. The apple is still red. The sky is still blue. The color is still there. It's just asleep. It's waiting for light. When light returns, it touches surfaces and bounces. That bounce is how we see. But not all light bounces in the same way. Some is absorbed, some passes through, some is bent or broken into pieces. Every interaction between light and matter creates a new story, and color is how those stories speak. In deep caves where sunlight never reaches, certain minerals glow when touched by ultraviolet light, not because they created the glow, but because they were holding it, waiting. This glow is called fluorescence. It shows us that color doesn't only exist in light, it exists in potential, in what might happen when energy meets material, in the promise of brightness inside what seems still. The natural world is full of colors we can't see. Infrared warms our skin but remains invisible. Ultraviolet burns us and guides bees to nectar. X-rays pass through flesh and show us our bones. These forms of light move through the world, painting it in colors beyond our senses. But just because we don't see them doesn't mean they aren't there. Darkness, then, is not the absence of color. It is the place where color is waiting to be found. Some creatures see colors we cannot. Birds can perceive ultraviolet hues that look like secret signs on petals and feathers. Snakes can sense infrared warmth from the bodies of their prey, seeing heat as shape. Deep-sea fish see in faint blues and reds, guiding them in the lightless waters. Their eyes are tuned to a world we cannot imagine. For them, darkness is not black, it is patterned, glowing, alive. And even for us, color begins in darkness. The human eye is filled with cells that wait for light. Rods and cones sit in silence until a photon strikes. Then in an instant they wake. They send signals to the brain. A wave of meaning rises, but in the dark those cells do not vanish. They remain alert. That is why when light suddenly returns, it can feel overwhelming, because the darkness was never empty. It was holding the shape of color in readiness. The sky at night holds color too. Though it seems black, it is not truly void. It holds the deep blue of scattered starlight, the faint purple from airglow, the soft silver from distant galaxies. Astronauts floating above Earth have spoken of space not as pitch black but as layered, filled with veils of hue too subtle to name. Color in darkness is a presence, not an absence. It hums at the edge of seeing. In autumn, when leaves begin to change, the green that once dominated fades. But the reds and oranges do not arrive, they are revealed. They were there all along, hidden beneath chlorophyll, masked by the green pigment that photosynthesis needs. When the tree prepares for rest, the green drains away and the hidden colors speak. These are the colors that waited, not invented, not summoned, simply released. And snow, too, holds this mystery. Though we think of it as white, snow can blush pink at dawn, burn gold at sunset, glow blue in shadow. It reflects the sky, the angle of the sun, the depth of clouds. It does not make its own color, but it is a mirror with memory. In its silent shimmer, it holds the tones of day and the soft return of light after long nights. Artists have long tried to capture the feeling of color that is not seen but sensed. They paint with layers, with glazes, with soft washes that seem to glow from within. They try to show what it feels like to see something in shadow, in dusk, in the corner of the eye. These colors are not bright, they are suggestions. They are the feeling of something almost appearing, the whisper before the word. And in language, too, we describe color in ways that suggest motion, softness, waiting. A blush of pink, a wash of blue, a hint of gold. These are not fixed things, they are moments. They come and go, change with the light, change with the eye. The same object looks different at noon and at twilight, not because it changes, but because the light changes, and with it, the color it offers. Memory is like that, too. A moment remembered can feel warm or cool depending on the light of the day, the emotion of the hour. The red of a childhood coat may not be the same red we'd see now, but in the mind it remains vivid, personal. The color in memory waits in darkness, too, until it's touched by thought and brought back to view. And sometimes we close our eyes and still see color. Not shapes, not images, but patterns. Faint reds, blues, silvers that move in the quiet space behind our lids. These are not hallucinations. They are the brain's echo of light, the last sparks of vision continuing in darkness. The color that waits inside us. Color is not a possession. It is a relationship between light and matter, between seeing and feeling, between what is and what might be. In the dark, that relationship rests, but it never ends. So the next time you find yourself in shadow, or beneath a sky with no stars, or in a room with no lamp, remember that color is still there. Held in the walls, in the folds of fabric, in the lines of your hand, it does not vanish. It waits. It says, I will return when the light returns. It says, I am not gone, I am only resting. It says, I remember what you looked like when the light touched you. And when the light does return, you will see it again, not as something new, but as something remembered. Color that waited in darkness, keeping you company all along. Let us move now into the deeper folds of color's quiet story, where light begins to meet memory, and where stillness is not the end of brightness, but the beginning of something else. Color, you see, is not only what we see, it is what we feel. It is the emotional reflection of the light that surrounds us. It can be loud in a field of sunflowers, or soft in the fading edge of dusk. But always it waits in matter, in shape, in the smallest pieces of the world, even when there is no light to lift it out of silence. The molecules that give things color, called pigments, are everywhere, in petals, skin, rocks, feathers, shells. Each one is tuned to absorb certain kinds of light and to reflect others. A rose is red not because it contains redness, but because it absorbs most colors and lets red go. The same with the blue of a jay's wing, the green of a fern, the amber of honey. These pigments hold a code, a quiet choice about what light to keep and what to release. But when the sun goes down, they don't stop holding that code. They don't stop being themselves. In the dark, the color remains folded into the object, waiting like breath in the chest. In some materials, the color doesn't even depend on pigment, it depends on structure. Think of a peacock's feather or a soap bubble or a butterfly's wing. These colors shimmer and shift not because of dye or chemical, but because of the way the surface bends and scatters light. The tiniest ridges, the smallest layers, twist and bend the waves, separating colors like notes in a chord. These are called structural colors. They are real, but they are tricksters, changing with angle, with movement, with mood. And even when the light is gone, those structures stay, ready, holding space for color. And in the deepest oceans, where sunlight never reaches, life still finds ways to speak in color. Creatures with glowing bodies create their own light, bioluminescence. They emit soft greens and blues, pulsing in the dark water like heartbeats. They use this glow to find mates, to hide, to warn. And around them, other colors wait, caught in their skin, ready to reflect whatever shimmer might pass. Even in the blackest water, where the sun has never touched, the idea of color lives on. We often think of darkness as the opposite of light, but it is more gentle than that. It is not the enemy of color, but the canvas. Just as music needs silence to be heard, color needs shadow to be seen. The pale pink of a petal seems softer when held against the gray of dusk. The glow of a firefly is brighter because of the dark air around it. The sparkle of a star is more precious because it lives in the endless ink of space. Color is not only about what is added, but about what is around it. In science, researchers study how color affects our emotions. Cool blues can bring calm, warm yellows can wake memory, deep reds can stir feeling. But these effects are not only about the color itself, they are about the contrast between color and its absence. A red wall seen at night feels different than a red wall seen at sunrise. A blue sky after a storm feels clearer than one seen every day. The context changes the color. Darkness changes the color. Our hearts change the color. And in dreams, color appears not from light at all, but from within. Our brains, untethered from the outside world, still summon shades and shapes. They paint with the memory of color, using emotion as a brush. We see places we've never been, skies we've never walked under, rooms lit by impossible suns. These dream colors come not from photons, but from patterns inside us. They are echoes of light we once knew. Colors that once waited for us now return to wait again. There are colors that are remembered differently by every eye. The exact shade of green in a field, the purple of a twilight cloud, the gold inside a candle's flame. These are not fixed. They change with memory, with longing, with attention. And so even when the light is gone and only memory remains, the color continues to shift. It waits not just in objects, but in us. Some traditions speak of colors as living things, as spirits, as emotions, as beings that move with us. While science tells us about photons and cones and pigments, these stories remind us that color is also a language of the heart. A blue scarf once worn by someone we loved becomes more than fiber. A red door on a childhood home becomes more than paint. These colors stay with us even when the object is gone, even when the light is gone. Color in this way becomes a thread of presence. A silent companion. And when artists close their eyes, they still see their palette. They hold in their mind the gentle curve of ochre, the weight of ultramarine, the whisper of burnt sienna. These colors are not glowing, they are not visible, but they are there, shaped by years of looking, of mixing, of seeing the world not as outlines, but as light waiting to rise. A blank canvas in a dark room still hums with potential, because the artist knows the color is waiting. In ancient caves, humans painted on stone with pigments made from earth, charcoal, crushed berries, iron-rich soil. These colors were chosen carefully, not only for beauty, but for meaning. And though the caves have been dark for tens of thousands of years, those colors remain, still fixed to the wall, still holding story, still waiting for a torch, a beam of light, a moment of gaze to wake them. The color never left, it simply paused. And when dawn returns after a long night, the world does not invent color anew. It reveals what was always there. The blue of the sky begins as gray, then blushes, then lifts. The green of the trees reemerges, not suddenly but slowly. Petals stretch open, not because they've grown, but because the light has returned to meet them. The shadows slip away, and the colors that waited rise like breath. Even the color of your own skin, seen in the first light of morning, carries something ancient. It is shaped by thousands of generations, by adaptation to sun and shadow, by the long conversation between light and the body. And beneath that surface, blood and tissue and bone all hold their own soft hues, painted in the language of biology, the colors of being alive. So much of our world is built on the trust that light will return, that the colors we love will shine again, that the blue of a loved one's eyes, the yellow of a kitchen wall, the green of a favorite hill will all be there when the morning comes. And they will, because they are already here in the dark, in the quiet, in the waiting. Color does not fade in darkness, it rests. It does not vanish, it listens. It does not forget, it remembers the light. And it holds that memory for you until you are ready to see again. And now let us linger in the last hush of color's journey, where its silence becomes its strength and its patience becomes its beauty. In this final drift through the stillness of night, color no longer demands to be seen, it simply is. Folded inside objects, resting inside memory held in the quiet embrace of time. And though the eyes may no longer witness it, and the world may appear cloaked in gray, color has not gone. It has become presence without appearance. It has become the heartbeat beneath the stillness. Think of the hours before dawn, the time when the sky is not yet blue but not quite black, the time when everything holds its breath, waiting for the light to return. In this space, the world seems flat. T10 drained of hue, but the color is not lost. It is suspended, hovering between past and future like a thought not yet spoken. A mountain still holds its green, a river its silver, a tree its rusted gold. But these colors have drawn inward, not to hide but to rest. They are cradled in darkness, protected, not gone but gently tucked away. And even the light itself, when it returns, does so slowly. The sun does not explode into the sky, it creeps. Its beams stretch long across the horizon, touching the world with the softest fingers. The color that reemerges is not loud but whispered. The blue of sky appears as a pale wash, the green of leaves wakes from beneath dew. Flowers open not as a show but as a sigh. This is how color moves when it is allowed to wait. It returns not with force but with kindness. The world in early light is not the same as in full day. The shadows are longer, the hues are cooler. There is a kind of honesty to the colors in those moments, a softness that only exists when the day is just beginning. It's the same with twilight. At the end of the day, when the sun slips away, the colors do not flee. They linger. They stretch themselves thin across the sky, becoming lavender, peach, silver, smoke. The color is not fading, it is bowing, saying goodbye without sorrow, letting go without absence. This rhythm of arrival and retreat is ancient. Long before humans named colors, long before language, long before memory, the world pulsed with this pattern. Light then dark, color then rest, and everything that lives has grown in rhythm with it. Flowers that close at night, shells that change their shade depending on light, skin that flushes with warmth, fruit that ripens under sun. Each one is part of this endless, quiet movement between color and its cocoon. And within us the same is true. Our moods, our thoughts, our feelings, they shift with light. We are more than minds, we are bodies tuned to the color of the day. Blue can calm, yellow can uplift, gray can soften, red can stir. Even when we don't notice it, color touches us, wraps around us, shapes how we move through the world. And in darkness, when we rest, those colors do not leave. They stay behind our eyes, curled in memory, waiting for the next light to wake them. Some nights we see color in dreams, a flash of orange, a field of violet, a window lit with gold. These are not projections, they are echoes, our mind remembering what light has given it, repainting the world it knows, using the palette it carries within. A palette built from childhood, from seasons, from places loved and lost, and sometimes from colors we've never truly seen, blended hues our imagination has created, combinations born in sleep. And there are moments when even in waking, color surprises us. A gray day where a single red leaf catches our eye, a shadow that suddenly glows blue, a moment where the light shifts and the wall we've seen 1,000 times turns lavender. These are not tricks. These are reminders that color is always there, moving, waiting, changing in softness and silence. There are also colors we can't name, shades that sit between words, a green so pale it becomes silver, a gold that hums of brown. These colors live in the edges, in the folds of seeing, in the spaces between language. Poets try to name them, painters try to mix them, but they remain elusive, belonging more to feeling than to fact, and often they come to us in darkness, as a thought, as a memory, as something known without being seen. Even in places designed to be without color, places of concrete, metal, glass, color sneaks in. A reflection from a puddle, a smudge of sunlight on a cold wall, a flicker of passing headlights. Color is persistent. It waits for the smallest crack in the dark and slips through. It does not need to be bright to be seen. Sometimes the most moving colors are the faintest. In art galleries, paintings sit under low light, protected from time, yet the colors still speak. The brushstrokes still carry warmth. The reds still carry emotion. The blues still carry depth. Even as the paint ages, even as the canvas fades, something remains. The soul of the color, the intention behind it, the echo of the artist's hand. That too waits in darkness. That too lingers beyond the eye. So too with the world, color is not dependent on attention. It does not exist only to be noticed. It does not perform. It simply is, like air, like silence, like sleep. And in its quiet persistence, it teaches us something gentle, that we do not always need to see something to know that it's there. That beauty does not always need to call out. That meaning can wait. Tonight, if you walk through a quiet room or stand under a moonless sky or lie still with your eyes closed, remember, the world has not become less full. The colors you know are still around you. They are resting. They are holding their shape. They are humming softly in their corners, waiting for the moment when light will touch them again. And when that moment comes, when morning returns, or the lamp is lit, or the curtain is drawn, the colors will not arrive with surprise. They will return like an old friend, familiar, kind, complete. Because they were never gone. They were just waiting. For you. At night, when the world feels still and silent, photons are wide awake. They drift across the sky, curl through rooms, sneak between tree trunks, and press softly against closed eyelids. While people sleep and cities dim their lights, the photons continue their journeys, slow, quiet, but never truly stopping. They belong to the rhythm of darkness just as much as they belong to the blaze of day. And their work, though invisible to most, carries on. Photons, those tiny bundles of light, do not sleep. They do not wait. They do not choose when to shine. They simply go where they are sent, reflected from the moon, scattered by starlight, bounced from buildings and clouds and skin. Even at midnight, when the air is thick with calm, photons are weaving their way through the atmosphere, landing on leaves, passing through windows, brushing over rooftops. The night is not empty. It is full of their quiet presence. Some photons come from faraway stars, taking centuries to arrive. Others are made much closer from streetlights, flashlights, fireflies. And yet once they're born, they follow the same rules. They travel at the speed of light, they carry energy, and they touch everything they meet. Even the faintest flicker on a wall in a sleeping room is made of billions of photons, each one delivering a message. Light is still here. And yet not all photons are visible. Many drift in wavelengths too long or too short for the human eye to catch. These include infrared photons, which carry heat, and ultraviolet photons, which carry more energy than we can see. At night, the Earth continues to release infrared photons, shedding the warmth it gathered during the day. This quiet cooling is a conversation between the planet and the sky, and photons are the language they speak. In nature, this gentle exchange is constant. A stone warmed by the sun releases infrared light through the night. A tree breathes out warmth from its bark. A sleeping animal radiates heat into the air around it. These are photons leaving in silence. You cannot see them, but you can feel them. The warmth in a room, the comfort of a blanket, the press of a body beside you. Photons are always speaking, even if you are not listening. In the city, the nightlife of photons takes on a different form. Streetlights flicker into life. Neon signs glow. Windows spill soft gold onto sidewalks. These are not just illuminations, they are pathways for photons, channels for their endless flight. Some bounce endlessly between glass and metal. Others get caught in fog or fall into puddles, scattered and refracted until their journey ends in a blur of color. This light does not fade just because we look away. It continues, carrying its glow through the fabric of night. And even in the darkest places, photons find their work. In deep forests where the moon barely reaches, in caves where no sunlight falls, in the ocean's quiet depths, here too there is light. Tiny organisms glow with their own fire. bioluminescence. It is one of the oldest tricks of life to create photons from within. Certain fungi, insects, jellyfish, and fish release light in pulses, in flashes, in delicate shimmers that move like breath. These creatures speak in photons, using them to lure, to signal, to survive. And their messages do not need eyes to be beautiful. The light is enough. Consider the firefly. In a meadow, it drifts through the air, blinking gently. Each pulse is a wave of photons sent into the night like a question. Other fireflies answer. What seems like simple blinking is, in truth, a dialogue of timing, rhythm, and glow. And to the eyes of someone watching from the grass, the meadow becomes a field of floating stars, silent, slow, full of meaning, all created by tiny packets of light. Even the moon, though cold and silent, plays its part. It reflects the light of the sun, sending photons back to Earth. These moon-born photons touch the tops of trees, the folds of mountains, the curves of sleeping cities. They wash windows in silver. They find the creases in a face turned toward the sky. And when the moon wanes or hides, the stars continue the work, their beams smaller, quieter, but no less real. Photons also work inside us, even at night. In your eyes, special cells called photoreceptors remain tuned to light even in the dark. Some can detect a single photon. Though your conscious mind may not notice, your body is listening. Light affects your sleep, your dreams, your rhythms. Melatonin, the hormone that helps you rest, is shaped by light. Too many photons at the wrong time, like from a phone or a lamp, can stir the brain when it longs for quiet. Light does not just show us the world, it enters us. It shapes the chemical clocks that guide our rest. And in places built to keep out light, bedrooms with heavy curtains, theaters gone dark, deep mines carved into stone, photons still find ways in. A keyhole glow, a blinking alarm, a shimmer of red from an appliance. And even when there is no light at all, the eye begins to invent it. After a time in true darkness, the brain will create small sparks, tiny phantom flashes. These are not hallucinations, they are echoes. Proof that your mind, your eyes, your body have grown used to the constant presence of photons. Photons may seem simple, just particles, just waves, but in the night they reveal their deeper nature, not as messengers of brightness, but as companions to silence. They do not demand, they do not rush, they drift, they settle, they give. And even when they are not seen, they are still doing the work of touching, of warming, of becoming. Even when the last lamp goes out, the last screen dims, the last candle flickers away, photons continue. From the stars, from the sky, from the heat of the earth itself, the night is never truly dark. And that is not a failure of night, it is the persistence of light, the persistence of photons. They are there humming through your room, curling through the folds of your blanket, brushing the surface of your face as you sleep. You will never know them all, you will never catch them all, but they are there. And they will stay. Now let us drift further into the midnight world where photons keep their soft vigil, moving quietly through landscapes both seen and unseen. While most of the world rests beneath blankets and rooftops, the air remains alive with invisible motion. Photons continue to pass through every sleeping branch, every silent hill, every window pane fogged by breath. They do not pause when the eyes close. They do not slow when clocks stop ticking. Their journey is steady, tireless, eternal. In the realm of night, light becomes a different kind of presence. It's no longer about brightness or clarity. It's about mood, texture, emotion. A dim hallway light that barely reaches the floor. A glimmer of moonlight slipping through curtains. A distant street lamp shining like a quiet sentinel beyond the trees. These are not bursts of light. They are whispers. They are stories told in fragments and flickers, and every photon is a word in that unspoken language. Photons at night reveal more than they hide. In the daytime, light floods everything. It overexposes, it demands, but at night the few photons that arrive must do more with less. They show us only what they can touch, a corner of a book, the outline of a chair, the glint on a glass of water. And so the imagination fills the rest. Shadows stretch, edges blur, the world becomes more mysterious, and yet also more tender, because in that limited vision we are invited to feel, to guess, to remember. Think of the stars, each one is a well of light, releasing photons across unimaginable distances. Those photons travel without rest, dodging planets, sliding past dust, moving with perfect quiet until at last they reach Earth. Some enter telescopes and are studied. Others fall on oceans, on forests, on rooftops. Some are caught in cameras. Some enter the eyes of animals wandering in the dark, foxes, owls, deer, wolves. And some impossibly land on you. The stars may be far, but their light still finds you. It always finds you. In places without electricity, where darkness truly returns each night, the photon's presence becomes even more sacred. A lantern becomes a gathering place. A candle becomes a beacon. A match strike becomes a moment of awe. One flicker in such darkness can transform a space. It can shape thoughts. It can become a center for warmth, for reading, for dreaming. We forget sometimes how powerful a single photon can be, how much it can change the feeling of a room, of a face, of a night. There are cultures around the world that have honored this power. Stories told around firelight, songs sung beneath stars, ceremonies held in moonlit fields. For thousands of years, people have followed the rhythms of light, not just the blaze of noon, but the silver softness of dusk, the pale blue of early dawn, the rich gold of oil lamps flickering in sacred halls. Each photon in these places is treated like a visitor, honored, welcomed. And within your body, the absence of light is not emptiness, it is instruction. As darkness falls, your brain begins to shift. Your temperature drops, your blood pressure lowers, melatonin rises, all because the photons have begun to fade. Your cells recognize the change, they understand the rhythm. This is how we know to sleep, not by decision, but by design. Light and dark are the oldest clock, and the body listens with perfect loyalty. Yet we now live in a world where photons never fully leave. Screens glow late into the night. Cities shine with artificial dawns that never end. These photons, though still made of light, carry a different kind of message. They confuse the body. They blur the edges of day and night. They steal from the stillness. The photons of natural night, the starlight, the moonlight, the slow release of warmth from trees have rhythm. They ebb and flow, but the electric photon does not rest. It pushes through, disrupting sleep, reshaping dreams, making our inner clocks forget what darkness feels like. Still, the body remembers, the cells remember. Even a few minutes of true darkness can begin to bring balance back. Even a short walk under stars can reset something deep inside. The right photons, gentle, slow, arriving from ancient light, can heal the rhythms we've lost. And even in the glow of our homes, we can choose which photons to keep close. A soft lamp instead of a screen, a candle instead of a bulb, moonlight instead of brightness. These are choices that invite the night to return. In sleep, the mind becomes a new sky. Thoughts drift like stars, dreams flicker, and deep inside the brain, tiny flashes of electricity, biophotons, are released. These are not metaphors, they are real. The body emits faint light from within. Scientists believe these photons may be connected to how cells communicate, to how the brain processes memory. It's as if even while sleeping, the body speaks in light. The idea that we glow, even slightly, even invisibly, adds a kind of poetry to our rest. We are not just receiving photons, we are also giving them, not as beams or flashes, but as pulses of presence. A kind of cellular whisper, a gentle radiance that never fully goes out. And the earth too glows at night. The atmosphere emits a faint light called airglow, caused by atoms in the sky releasing energy stored from the sun. This glow is not visible from most places, but it's there, wrapping the planet in a faint aura. So even when we think the night is dark, it is actually bathed in a soft shimmer, a planetary memory, a holding of light until the sun returns. And in space where night never ends, photons continue without interruption. They travel through the dark between galaxies. They pass through gas clouds, bend around stars, slip through time itself. They are the messengers of the universe, and they never rest. While we sleep, they move. While we dream, they carry stories. While we forget, they remember. Photons do not choose to be seen. They simply arrive. And whether they are noticed or not, they offer themselves freely. They touch everything, they record everything. A single one striking a wall may heat it by a fraction. A single one entering your eye may become a memory, a moment, a dream, a thought. And so, as you rest beneath the sky, know that the night is not silent. It is filled with travelers, with companions, with watchers made of light. They do not speak in words, they do not leave footprints, but they are there, brushing over your arms, pooling on your floor, moving through the air with grace. They are the night life of photons, the whisper of the world when the world is asleep. As night deepens, as silence stretches and the last voices drift into sleep, the photons do not grow weary. They continue their soft choreography, tracing paths over fields, rooftops, rivers, and resting forms. There is no applause for their journey, no audience in the dark, but they are not performing. They are simply present. This is the true rhythm of the night, a quiet world cradled by countless beams of light, too small to notice, too many to count. And the world responds. Though hidden in darkness, the environment continues to feel each passing photon. A dew-covered petal reflects a fraction of moonlight. The surface of a pond bends starlight into soft patterns. The eye of an owl catches a shimmer that guides its next flight. There is no single place untouched by the gentleness of photons. They travel into every crack, every fold, every unseen corner, carrying stillness and presence in equal measure. Sometimes the light of night seems like a memory, not a fact. A kind of feeling familiar and distant. That's because night light is not about brightness, it is about balance. The balance between presence and absence, between motion and rest. A single candle on a table can illuminate 100 thoughts. A shaft of moonlight on a floor can calm an entire room. Night photons do not show everything, they show just enough. They guide the imagination instead of replacing it. This is why stories told at night feel different. The flicker of a flame beside a tale adds weight, mystery, gentleness. Ancient stories, whispered beneath stars, were shaped not just by the words, but by the light in which they were spoken. Photons, in those moments, did not only illuminate the face of the storyteller, they shaped the memory of the listener. They gave form to magic, wonder, and awe. Even our dreams may be gently touched by these quiet travelers. Some scientists believe that even the faintest light, leaking through CL. Ost eyelids can shift the direction of a dream, that a subtle change in brightness may alter mood, timing, even thought. In this way, photons become not just visitors of the skin and eyes, but of the unconscious, moving within and without, at once soft and powerful. And there are some dreams so vivid, so colorful, so filled with light, that they seem to be painted not by imagination alone, but by real photons remembered. Dreams of golden fields, of glowing cities, of blue oceans shining under the stars. These are not accidents. The mind recalls the way light felt. It brings back the touch of a sunrise on the cheek, the glimmer of light through leaves, the shimmer on water. Photons that once touched the body may leave impressions deep in the mind, echoing long after they've gone. There is also a strange truth known in science. A single photon, one that arrives gently in the dark, may influence the body more than we expect. In experiments, researchers have discovered that certain parts of the human brain, especially those regulating sleep, respond to extremely low levels of light. A few photons can shift circadian rhythm. A small change in night lighting can change the timing of dreams. The body, it seems, is always listening. But photons are not only for humans. The entire world listens. Moths move toward light not out of confusion, but out of ancient pattern. Night-blooming flowers open wide when touched by certain wavelengths. Coral reefs use the full moon's glow to coordinate mass spawning. Even trees, in subtle ways, adjust their rhythms to night light. It is not only daylight that feeds life. Nightlight, though fainter, is still part of the breath of the earth. And then there is moonlight, cool, soft, ancient, made not by the moon itself, but by sunlight reborn. Each photon reflected from the moon carries a slightly changed journey. It has touched the lunar surface, dust, crater, rock, and now carries a hint of that place as it falls back to Earth. Moonlight is not cold, it is simply gentle, and it brings with it a sense of peace that sunlight in its glory does not hold. It says not wake but rest, not look but feel. Moonlight has no edge, it softens everything it touches. Shadows under moonlight are not sharp, they blur at the edges, fold into darkness like breath into sleep. Even faces look different in moonlight. Softer, deeper, less defined, as if identity becomes fluid, as if the self relaxes into a quieter form. This is not imagination, it is light shaping perception. In many traditions, the moon is seen as a mirror, reflecting the sun's light with a gentler tone. And in that reflection, people have found poetry, guidance, ritual. Moonlight is used in meditation, in healing, in dreaming, because even when its photons are few, they hold power. Not the power to energize, but the power to soothe, to connect, to invite slowness. Some animals are born to live by nightlight. Their eyes are built to gather every last photon. Their senses are attuned to motion within shadow. They do not fear the dark, they thrive in it, guided by the smallest gleams. To them, photons are not rare. They are plentiful, like breadcrumbs scattered across the forest floor, leading them safely through the dark. And then slowly, gently, night begins to turn, not all at once, but in a slow exhale. The darkest hour begins to lift. Somewhere over the edge of the earth, the sun is rising. Its photons have already begun their journey. They are slipping into the sky not with force, but with a quiet lightning. The stars begin to fade, not because they have vanished, but because the flood of brighter photons is arriving. And still, the night ones linger, mixing in the air, swirling with dawn. And so the nightlife of photons comes to its soft end. But there is no ending, really, only transformation. The photons of night give way to the photons of day. The stories told in whispers are handed to those told in laughter. The silver becomes gold, the cool becomes warm, but still the motion continues. Light never stops, not even in the night. Especially not in the night. Because in those quietest hours when the world seems most still, the photons are closest. They are around you, above you, within you, drifting, resting, touching. And as the first morning light spills into the corners of the room, as dreams dissolve, as breath deepens, they fade without resistance. Not gone, just transformed. Still here, still light. There is a kind of light we cannot see. It is not the sparkle of stars or the shimmer of oceans or the glow of morning skies. It is deeper than that, longer, slower, quieter. It moves through the universe like breath, like warmth pressed between silence and time. This light is called infrared, and though it lies beyond the limits of our sight, it touches us constantly. It is the language galaxies use when they whisper their oldest secrets. Infrared light is not less than visible light. It is simply scent. Retched, its waves are longer, its steps slower. What we see is heat, what we feel from sunlight, what warms the stone beneath our feet or the skin of a sleeping cat, all of that is infrared. It does not shine, it glows. It does not blind, it comforts. And in the darkest places, where no stars seem to twinkle, where blackness folds upon itself, infrared is often the only light that remains. Many things in the universe hide their stories behind dust. Galaxies in formation, stars being born, planets surrounded by swirling clouds, these are hidden from ordinary view. Visible light cannot pass through thick gas and debris. It scatters, it fades, but infrared slips through. It threads its way past particles. It glides through the smoke of creation. And so when astronomers point special telescopes toward the stars, it is not to see what is obvious, but to listen in infrared. The James Webb Space Telescope, orbiting far from Earth, is one such listener. Its eyes are tuned not to starlight, but to the long, slow waves of warmth from galaxies billions of years away. It looks back in time, capturing the first whispers of light after the birth of the cosmos. These are not bursts, they are echoes, not color but presence. Each infrared beam tells of dust clouds collapsing, of stars kindling into being, of galaxies swirling into their spiral shapes. Without infrared, the early universe would be dark. With it, we see not just light, but growth. Closer to home, infrared light reveals the shape of warmth on Earth. Special cameras show glowing footprints on cold floors, the heat from a sleeping dog, the quiet shimmer of breath in winter air. What the eye misses, infrared reveals. It is the light of the unseen, the map of the invisible. It shows not brightness, but life. And life, it turns out, depends on this quiet light more than we know. Plants absorb infrared as part of their warming rhythm. Animals release it through fur and skin. Even the soil, as it cools at night, sends a slow flow of infrared back into the sky. This glow is constant. It is the Earth's soft exhale, and the sky in turn returns some of it, Clouds trap infrared and reflect it downward, keeping the planet from growing too cold. It is a quiet exchange, heat shared between earth and air, never seen, always felt. Humans are creatures of warmth. Our bodies radiate infrared constantly. We do not shine in darkness, but we glow. Special sensors can see this glow outlining figures in the black. But beyond technology, beyond sensors, this warmth is something we understand in a deeper way. When we sit close to someone, when we wrap ourselves in blankets, when we hold a cup of tea, the comfort we feel is not only emotional, it is physical. It is the gentle presence of infrared, flowing from one surface to another, telling us we are not alone. In deep space, the same language continues. Galaxies emit infrared as they spin and breathe. Star clusters wrapped in dust release warmth as they grow. Collisions between galaxies, so violent in scale, are revealed not through explosions but through soft glows. What we would never see in visible light becomes clear in infrared. It is as if the universe, in its vastness, does not shout its mysteries, it whispers them in warmth. There are galaxies entirely hidden from visible sight, cloaked in layers of dust and gas. To a regular telescope they are darkness, but to an infrared eye they are vibrant, alive with movement, heavy with starbirth, rich in energy. These are called ultraluminous infrared galaxies, and they shine more brightly in heat than the sun does in light, but only in a part of the spectrum we cannot see. This tells us something gentle about the nature of things. That brightness is not always what we think, that what seems dark may in fact be full of life, that the most meaningful signals are not always the ones our eyes can catch. Sometimes, what matters most is what glows quietly, just beyond perception. And so we begin to understand the night in a new way. It is not just absence of light. It is a shift, a change in how light moves. As the sun sets, the visible fades, but the infrared rises. The warmth of the day is released. Stones glow faintly. Buildings hum with heat. Bodies breathe in long, slow waves of radiation. Everything that has held the sun's energy begins to give it back, not in spark or flash, but in soft exhalation. This is infrared. This is light you feel, not see. Even in art, this principle is known. Paintings hung on walls absorb sunlight during the day, and when scanned with special cameras at night, they glow, not with paint but with warmth. The brushstrokes hold more than color, they hold the heat of the hand that shaped them. In this way, even objects remember, even stillness holds echo. And in the wild, animals use this light to survive. Some snakes have pits that detect infrared, letting them sense the warmth of prey in total darkness. Owls may hunt by the heat given off by smell. Bodies in the grass, bats even without eyes that see it, may follow air warmed by wings. To these creatures night is not dark, it is patterned with warmth. Their world is drawn in softness, not in shadow. Infrared also moves through the human experience. Campfires, body heat, warm hands in winter gloves, all these are expressions of this invisible light. And though we may not name it, we know its feeling. We recognize its presence, the glow of home, the comfort of closeness, the hush of a warm room after a cold day. These are not only emotional spaces. They are physical places where infrared gathers, where photons move slowly, gently around us. In this way, the universe speaks to us, not in bursts of brilliance, but in warmth that drifts through night and space. The galaxies are not silent. They are glowing in low tones, sending their messages across time. Their light does not call out. It hums, it pulses, it surrounds. And so when you sit quietly in a room lit only by stillness, when the visible world has faded into outlines, when your hands meet the lingering heat of something held hours before, know that this too is light. That even in darkness the photons have not left. They are just moving slower, lower, deeper. Still here, still speaking. Still warm. Let's drift further now into the quiet glow of infrared, where the universe breathes not in bursts of brightness, but in long, slow warmth. There is something intimate about this light. It doesn't demand attention. It doesn't dazzle or blind, it simply surrounds. It sinks into skin, radiates from stone, passes through clouds, and lingers in the corners of the cosmos like a secret gently shared. And in the grand silence between stars, Galaxies whisper with it, not in color or sound, but in soft, ancient heat. Infrared light tells us about things in motion. It reveals the warmth of a body, the exhale of a forest, the breath of a sleeping city. Even after a candle is blown out, its warmth continues to radiate in the dark. That afterglow is infrared. Even after the sun has slipped beyond the horizon, the earth glows quietly, releasing what it has gathered. A sidewalk warmed all day slowly cools. A wall that faced the sun holds its temperature like a memory. These moments are small and silent, but they are full of light. On a global scale, infrared helps balance the planet. The Earth absorbs sunlight during the day and releases infrared during the night. This slow cycle keeps our climate steady. But when extra gases trap this infrared light, holding it like too many blankets piled high, the planet begins to warm. This is the greenhouse effect, and it is not about visible light. It is about photons we cannot see moving too slowly to escape. Trapped light is still light. Trapped warmth is still energy. And in this, we are reminded that even unseen things have power. Infrared also plays a role in healing. In certain medical treatments, soft beams of infrared are used to ease pain, to soothe muscles, to warm tissues deeply and gently. It moves through skin with care, reaching where hands cannot. Some cultures have long used heat and light in their rituals: saunas, hot stones, sunbathing, not for brightness but for warmth. For the way it seeps into the body, softens the breath, opens the skin, and invites release. And in the forest, the language of infrared continues. At night, trees release the heat they held during the day. Animals, even when still, glow faintly in this invisible light. A deer in the shadows, unseen by human eyes, can be clearly visible to a thermal camera, not because it shines, but because it lives, because it radiates. Life is a source of infrared. Existence itself is a slow, steady glow. In astronomy, this same principle becomes a key to the hidden universe. Dust, which hides stars from visible telescopes, becomes transparent in infrared. Star nurseries where suns are being born appear as warm clouds glowing in slow motion. Astronomers peer through these veils and see the youngest light, the light of things just beginning to burn. This is how we glimpse the first pages of the universe's story, not in sharp starlight but in smudges of infrared, tender, forming, full of promise. And galaxies, those enormous spirals of dust and fire, are not only seen by the stars they contain. They are also mapped by the heat they hold. The arms of the galaxy swirl with gases warmed by gravity and collision. The centers hum with the warmth of ancient activity. Infrared shows us the shape of these whispers, the slow movements that took millions of years. Visible light shows the flash. Infrared shows the memory. Infrared also reveals the glow of things cooling. After a supernova, the explosive death of a star, the remnants remain warm for centuries. Long after the light has faded from view, the dust continues to release heat. These slow photons tell us how matter recycles, how stars leave behind material to form new stars, new planets, new life. A universe, even in death, radiates. In deep caves far from sunlight, humans have carried warmth with them for thousands of years. The flicker of a torch may be small, but the heat it gives off changes the air. Walls absorb it, stone remembers it. When scientists explore ancient dwellings with infrared tools, they can sometimes see where people once sat, where fires once burned, where hands once rested. Warmth leaves traces. Even long after we are gone, our heat remains, telling stories in the dark. And in our daily lives, infrared shapes how we feel space. A room bathed in sunlight feels different than one lit only by overhead lights. The warmth lingers. The surfaces continue to radiate. The photons remain long after the source is gone. That is the nature of infrared. It endures. It carries the echo of light long after the visible has vanished. Consider the moment you climb into a bed recently left by someone you love. The sheets are still warm. No light remains, no sound, but the heat is there. The infrared glow of presence, the invisible evidence of connection. That is not just comfort, it is physics. It is the motion of photons still dancing between threads of fabric, still releasing what was shared. Even rocks remember. Walk barefoot across sun-warmed stones in the evening, and you are walking through stored light. Photons once sent from the sun now rise softly into your skin, passed from stone to soul. That exchange is invisible, but it is as real as breath. You carry it with you as you step forward. Photographers working in infrared capture strange, beautiful worlds. Leaves glow white, skin becomes porcelain. The sky turns dark. It is not a false image, it is another truth, one we do not usually see. The world in infrared reveals its quiet side, its heat, its hush, its gentle music. And that music, though silent, is always playing. Every body, every wall, every river and hill is part of the score. We live inside a song made of warmth, a lullaby of low, slow photons stretching across the surface of the earth, through the folds of the air, around the curve of the sky. Infrared is not the light of beginning or end, it is the light of being, of presence, of now. It does not race, it lingers, it does not shout, it surrounds. And the galaxies in their great silence keep whispering in this language. They drift apart, collide, form new shapes, and all the while they glow in infrared, a kind of cosmic breath, a low, steady hum, a reminder that the universe is not cold, it is not empty, it is not done. It is warm. It is speaking. It is here. And now let us rest in the final stillness of this journey, where the last waves of invisible warmth glide through space, through stone, through skin. Infrared light does not fade with the morning. It does not disappear when the sun climbs high and the blue sky swallows the stars. It continues, just quieter, just deeper. The galaxies are still speaking in their slow language long after our ears have turned away. This is the soft light that remembers, that lingers. That holds the silence of stars like a lullaby inside time itself. Every object that holds warmth speaks this language. A cup left half full, a coat hung after a walk, a handprint left on glass. These things glow in infrared, releasing the memory of presence into the air. The photons do not cry out, they do not shine in bright flashes. They simply move outward slowly, like breath exhaled in winter, like steam rising from a tea kettle, like the hush that fills a quiet room after laughter. These are the moments that infrared captures, not with eyes but with the skin, with the heart. Think of how it feels to enter a greenhouse in early spring. The air is warmer than outside. The soil holds yesterday's sun. The windows, cold to the touch, still trap heat. This warmth is not just comfort, it is movement. It is photons circling between glass and plant and breath, forming a loop of life. This is how flowers begin to bloom before the world has thawed, how roots stir before the frost fades. The quiet call of infrared, waking life not with brilliance but with depth. Even in the universe's most distant corners, this warmth continues. Galaxies unseen by the naked eye send their signals across space in long waves of low light. The James Webb Space Telescope captures them not in color, but in touch. These signals arrive like ancient music, notes stretched across billions of years. When we see them, we are not just seeing something far away, we are seeing something long ago. Infrared gives us access to the oldest light, to the stories from before stars had fully found their names. And in those earliest galaxies, in those dusty nurseries of light, stars were being born faster than today. The universe was hotter, fuller, louder in its silence. But all of that is now a whisper, and infrared is how we hear it. The stretching of space, the cooling of time, the turning of matter into memory, all of these leave races in the fabric of light, a soft background hum, like the glow of a coal long after the fire has gone out, a warmth that says, we were here. On Earth, that same story plays out in small ways. The heat left in a stone after a sunny afternoon, the warmth of a tree trunk as night falls, the lingering temperature of a sidewalk after footsteps have passed. These things do not glow in ways we can see, but if you could tune your eyes to the slow waves of infrared, you would see a world still alive with motion, even in stillness. A world where nothing is ever truly cold, only in the process of cooling, only in the process of remembering. And that is what infrared is, light with memory. It does not fade quickly. It does not forget where it has been. It stays a while. It settles. It tells a story in slow motion. A child held in a parent's arms glows not only from love but from shared warmth. A forest at dusk holds the heat of noon in its branches. A cityscape after sunset hums with light that came hours before. These are stories that visible light cannot tell, but infrared can because it is the afterglow, the echo. The lingering presence. There is a term scientists use, thermal inertia. It means that something once warmed resists cooling. It holds on to heat, to light, to memory. The earth has it, the ocean has it, people have it too. Our bodies remember warmth. Our emotions remember light. We are in every way shaped by the photons we've met, those we saw and those we only felt. In dreams, too, infrared remains. The warmth of a dreamscape, the heat of a remembered sun, the gentle presence of another body nearby, all of this can exist in the world behind closed eyes. It does not need to shine, it only needs to glow, to hold, to be. And even when the dream fades, the warmth stays, a sense of being touched by something, a memory of comfort. And so we return to the galaxies, to the spirals and clusters and clouds that live in the vast dark between stars. These places are not cold in the way we imagine. They are not silent. They are glowing always in waves too long to see but not too long to feel. With the right tools, with the right eyes, we can watch galaxies breathe. We can see their hearts. We can listen to the slow language of their warmth. And perhaps in some quiet way, this is how we are connected, not just by the starlight that twinkles in the sky, but by the warmth that surrounds us all. The warmth that fills our homes, our bodies, our memories. The warmth that once came from the stars and now glows gently in our skin. Every breath, every hug, every step through sunlit grass is a dance with those ancient photons, carried across time, passed from galaxy to galaxy, home now in us. Infrared teaches us that light is not only for seeing, it is for feeling, for remembering, for resting. It tells us that the most important lights may not be the brightest, that some lights, like some stories, are meant to be held close, to be felt slowly, to be understood not with the eyes but with the heart. So when the night falls and the colors fade, do not think the light has left. It is still there, beneath the visible, around your shoulders, inside the walls. It is the heat in your tea, the warmth in your bed, the hush in your room. It is the whisper of galaxies singing their lullaby in low light. Not gone. Not lost. Just quieter. Just warmer. Just waiting to be felt.